This episode is proudly supported by the new Capital Food Market Canberra, where you can explore the very best producers, artisans, fresh food providores and hospitality venues of the region. Here's Alex Royds from La Cheeserie.
I do live in Melbourne, so it's my local market, so I'm excited to offer that. The way that it's looking to me, it's going to be like the go-to market in Canberra.
For more information, go to capitalfoodmarket.com.au or visit the markets and feed your curiosity.
Well, I never thought I'd be a prune farmer. We're accidental prune farmers, really. We didn't plan on being prune farmers, but prunes sort of just seemed to be a really good industry. We were making good money and it just sort of happened.
This is The Producers. I'm Anthony Huckstep. The first of its kind in Australia, naturally dried prunes are the most sustainable prune farm down under, utilising prune drying tunnels that have reduced the carbon footprint by 95% during the drying process. But as Ann Furner explains, that's just part of their story.
We're farming in an area called the Riverina in New South Wales. So we're part of the Murrumbidgee irrigation area, which allows us to irrigate our farm. We are smack bang in the middle of a little area between two towns called Yenda, and then the main big town next to us is Griffith in New South Wales. Our brand is a brand called Naturally Dried Prunes. We started this little venture about 4 years ago, and we actually sun-dry our prunes. So we're the only ones in Australia that actually sun-dries prunes on a large scale. We imported some sun-drying technology from Switzerland, actually, and we then have used that technology to differentiate ourselves in the prune industry, which has allowed us to create our own brand. So what we do, we actually sell a range of prune products, and with the main focus of a chocolate-coated prune, so which are really delicious.
Growing up in a farming family, Anne always knew agriculture would be in her future.
My mum and dad have worked their butts off to get where they are today, and we started out. My mum and dad started out as share farmers, and my dad was a shearer, and so they actually ended up purchasing a farm in the early 80s, and we actually lived off lamb chops and veg. So 3 veg and lamb chops, and let me tell you, I could avoid that for the rest of my life, I think. So yes, that was one of my earliest memories, lamb chops and 3 veg. So yeah, I was with my dad on the farm when I was littler, in about year 10 or 11, when we were trying to decide what path I was going to take. And I ended up just saying to Dad, I remember this really clearly. I said to Dad, I really like agriculture, but I don't want to deal with animals. I don't want to deal with sheep and cows, or I don't want to deal with pigs. And so he actually said to me, well, what about horticulture? And I ended up just saying, well, what is horticulture? And from there, that's where my love of horticulture started, and I really just grew from there, and I haven't looked back. I've enjoyed it for many, many years, and I'll continue to enjoy growing food and looking after trees. It's a really, really great job. So before I became a prune farmer, I have a background in horticulture. I studied horticultural science at university, and then that took me to a little town in Victoria called Cobram, a great little spot to live. And I was working for a large stone fruit growing and production company down there. And then my things changed, and then I ended up finding a job as a horticultural agronomist in Griffith, and that brought me home because I'm originally from this area. And so I was dealing with lots of different horticultural crops and lots of different farmers, and learning about different techniques of growing and advising farmers on different products to use on their farms, and doing a basic role of an agronomist. And so that sort of got me involved in the prune industry, because I was dealing with all of the prune growers in the local area.
After wanting to escape to the country, Anne and her husband found a farm, and all of a sudden they became accidental plum and prune farmers.
Anthony and I, my husband and I, were living in a small little unit in town and in Griffith, and we were pulling our hair out just saying we never want to live in town. We just don't want to live in town. We want to be out on a farm or have a little bit more space. So we had a bit of a look around, and this farm popped up on the market, and we decided to put a bid in, and we got it. So that took us back to absolutely not having any money. We started with absolutely nothing. We had no machinery to run the place. We started not really knowing how to run a farm. I had lived on a farm all my life, but I'd never made decisions on the farm. So I went from advising growers how to do things on their farm to actually doing things on my own farm. And I found it really difficult to make those decisions. But we've had many things go wrong, and we've had many things go right. But one of our favourite memories, not favourite, it was a pretty awful memory actually, but we actually were during harvest time, which happens in February. Our neighbour, he had an accidental irrigation issue, and he flooded our prune orchard, and we actually ended up losing the crop. So we couldn't actually get into harvest. So that was a bit of a daunting situation to be put under, but we ended up managing, and we got through another year. And yes, it hasn't happened since, which is nice. So.
Starting from sugar plums, the prune process is extensive.
Prunes are a really interesting product actually. So we actually grow sugar plums for the purpose of drying. So a sugar plum is a purple skin and yellow flesh plum. It originates from France. The original ones came over from France a long time ago. And we grow those. So it's like growing any other stone fruit, but a little bit less intensive. So we don't have to manually thin. We don't really have to manually prune our trees. So we can actually just grow them basically like any other tree. But they're deciduous, so they sleep during the winter and come to life in spring. We spend lots of hours in there monitoring for pests and diseases. We use drip irrigation to apply our water and fertiliser. And we also, during harvest, so harvest is in February, and during harvest we use mechanical shakers to actually shake our fruit off the tree. And the drying process is interesting as well. So with prunes, you harvest in the day what you actually can dry that day as well. So you can't harvest any more than what you can dry. So you don't have fresh fruit sitting in bins overnight and that sort of thing. So on our farm we can harvest about 40 bins a day. So we harvest those 40 bins a day, and then we process them and then put them on the dryers that same day. So it takes about 3 or 4 weeks to get through harvest, and it's a pretty intensive period. Using our solar drying system, it's a little bit less intensive to what other growers do in the industry. We can sleep at night where the other growers are up all night attending to their prunes, but we actually can just put our fruit in the solar drying beds, and they're covered with a clear plastic, and then during the day they heat up and they lose moisture, and then during the night they don't do much, they just sleep. So our prunes can take sort of 3 to 7 days to dry, and so it's pretty intensive, and we can dry all of our fruit on our farm now, which is really good. We can manage everything on farm.
Just as they were about to start selling their products, COVID changed their means to market completely.
Naturally dried prunes started in 2019. We were geared up to travel to markets and to really push. We were planning this big thing in 2020, and everyone knows that the COVID lockdowns happened in 2020. So just as we had packed all the gear for these big markets that we were booked into, we had our market stall set up in our lounge room and tinkering with the design of that. And about a week before we were due to go to some of these big markets, we actually got phone calls saying that they were all cancelled. So we had to very quickly think outside the square, and I had to learn how to set up an online shop. And so we set up a website using Shopify, which was quite easy in the end. And so I jumped online, and we used social media as well, was a really big thing. And it still is. Like, it's a really good tool for us to use, because we can not only show people the production side of it, we can actually show them what we do on farm and during the drying process, and we can show them everything we do on the farm, and they can get a real sense of what we do here in Yenda. So it's exciting.
Anne is not only growing plums and making prunes, but chocolate is an important part of the mix too.
Well, they're delicious. We coat a whole prune, a whole pitted prune, so it doesn't have the seed in it. So we actually coat, a whole prune. So they're quite large. We have a reasonably thin layer of chocolate on it, so the chocolate doesn't overpower the taste of the prune. But our sun-dried prunes, they're really soft and juicy, and they're sweet, and they've got a really intense plum flavour, and they are really simply delicious. Not only coated in chocolate, but also just on their own as well. They're incredible. So, some people say, they're like a big sultana, but I'm not sure if I'd compare it to a sultana. It's I don't know, they're soft and juicy and sweet. They're just delicious. So
After creating a unique product for Australia, Anne is looking to diversify.
We are looking at increasing the capacity of our chocolate coating business, and we are looking at potentially expanding the range of products that we do. Not only will we be concentrating on prunes, that will be our main focus obviously, but there's so many other wonderful products grown in the Griffith region that we will maybe look at adding some chocolate coated almonds or some apricots or some hazelnuts into our range to make sure that they're showcased in town as well. So we also are looking at expanding our solar drying capacity. So we're looking at importing we're not really sure yet whether it's going to be 6 or 12 more tunnels to expand the drying capacity on our farm. We also have a little bare block on our farm that we would like to plant more prunes on. So we're just waiting, giving that soil a little bit of time to rest, because we needed to just rest it after pulling out a block of prunes. So we're looking at planting more prunes to expand into the future. And one other thing that we have dabbled in, but we haven't really completely gone full bore on, is tourism, potential agro-tourism in the area. There's a lot more on-farm experiences, and agro-tourism industries are opening up where people can come and visit. So we're looking at potentially getting a little bit more involved with that in the local area.
Although Ann's an accidental prune farmer, it's brought all of her skills into one role.
Well, I never thought I'd be a prune farmer. We're accidental prune farmers, really. We didn't plan on being prune farmers. When we bought the place, we had wine grapes and prunes on it. We've completely transformed how our farm looks, and we've removed the wine grapes so we don't have to deal with those anymore. But prunes sort of just seemed to be a really good industry. We were making good money, and it just sort of happened. But I'm known in the area as the prune lady. It's hilarious that people see me down the street or see me at a market and go, oh, you're the prune lady. So that's changed my title in town. So, but yeah, prunes are an amazing product, and it's an amazing little industry. It's not very big anymore, and Australia, the Griffith area is the largest prune producing region in Australia, which is exciting. So, and to be one of the 40 or 50 odd growers left is pretty special. It's completely unique what I do. I'm the only female grower in the industry. I'm not discounting what wives and partners do with their husbands and that sort of thing, but I'm the only female farmer in the prune industry that's making day-to-day decisions on the farm. I run the farm, I drive all the tractors, I manage the chocolate coating and everything. I suppose I just love the freedom of being able to be my own boss and take our business in a new direction if we need to change, or if there's something challenging, I can just make a decision and do something different. It's just a wonderful job, really, being a farmer and producing food for people, and just hearing the feedback from our customers and the wholesalers and the businesses that sell our product. It's just wonderful to know that people actually really like our product, and the feedback's really positive, so it's what keeps us motivated to keep producing good quality products. So
Naturally Dried Prunes is not only a sustainability success story in Australia, it's a culinary delight too. This is The Producers, a Deep in the Weeds production. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of producers, farmers, makers and growers, the true lifeblood of the food industry. Follow us on Instagram at Producers Podcast, or email us at producerspodcast@deepintheweeds.com.au.